Welcome back, one and all, to the Paladins Premier League. This Thursday action getting kicked off. My name's Dolson. Starting off the desk for you today, we've got ones of games for you, dozens of minutes of Premier League action for you today. Joining me on the desk for set number one of one is none other than Kresnik. Kresnik, huge long week last week.
Yeah.
Nice, concise week this week. Fun game, though. We got the Knights, we got Na'Vi.
Yeah, it should be a good matchup. I mean, definitely one that it's nice to be highlighted on its own, on its own little island here on this Thursday
True.
of PPL. Should be good. We have a couple stories back and forth. Zarini having played for both teams basically in the past.
Yep.
Also Vapor subbing in for Ricotta because of Ricotta's illness. So a couple things to pay attention to in this set, and I'm pretty hyped, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to look at. I mean, you look back towards last week and some of the storylines that came out of it, notably Renegades going 2 for 2 on their matches, one over Kanga and then one over a team playing in the first match of the day in Na'Vi, and that shuffles things around. And then you look at the Knights, who are just above Kanga in the standings in the last split. They've made some roster swaps. They've now gone 1-1 in their first week, and this is really their week, I think, to prove that they belong above that 7th spot, of course, sitting down there at 4-12. Na'Vi, the other team playing in this match today, still in second place at 11-5, but Envy nipping right on those heels. But it definitely is a statement week, I think, for the Knights.
Yeah, especially after the first week being pretty decent for them, I think. I mean, chunking into Nip pretty well, taking them kind of to the limit. I was looking away in that one moment where that camera feed
That's something to look back into, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. And and taking that win on the other side, but still they need to prove themselves this week. They're the only team with 4 games in this first 2-week break, so having that ability to gel and have that chemistry quickly is going to be important for them. Unfortunately for them, again, with Ricotta being out, Vapor subbing in, Cuss Cutie being moved to DPS, something that I think he's always wanted to play.
Sure.
But
well, he came into the green room and said, all right, guys, you need to hype up my damage today. I'm going to be making big plays. He finally gets a chance to put his foot in that damage door. Spam this paper to help Vapor, I think. We had the bike for Mike. I don't know if there's a paper emo, but Vapor, of course, he's a little bit better suited. I mean, no disrespect to Mike, but Vapor actually plays the game, so I think it's a bit more plug and play.
Vapor's like Masters and Ranked.
Sure.
I mean, he does pub all the time. I've played with him. He subbed in for my team. He subbed in for Knights. He has a lot more experience than Mike did, but still, I mean, it's still going to hurt the team. Zarini is someone who is not going to hurt the team, bringing his experience in from playing against Na'Vi, I would say, and I mean, showing that he knows how to play point tank. Should be aware of that with his previous experience, but he's looked really good for them. I think he's changed a lot for them in terms of their communication. That was something that I think was lacking for them before, and he's brought a big boost to them in that case. Yeah,
I mean, of the 2 big changes that the Knights made, of course, Simsalou, big microscope on him last week. He had his big matchup against NIP, and that was sort of the focus there. And then Zarini in this case, because he, like you mentioned, he had subbed in for Na'Vi for a couple of weeks in the last split. Does that really come into play at this point, though? I mean, he knows the guys and knows their tendencies on Na'Vi, but the game has changed since week 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, unless they have some meta-proof drafts that they're breaking out, and I wouldn't be shocked if Na'Vi did. I would expect him to know a little bit, but I'm sure Na'Vi's changed plenty since that time.
Sure. Well, we'll see how they're feeling. We had the chance to sit down with a couple of the players on the Knights and see how they're feeling prior to this matchup. Several team rosters were in flux between MSI and Phase 2, with the Knights having the most public of shakeups. For the now vacant point tank position, Ricotta and the team wanted to bring in a new dynamic to the front line, patching up the holes that had led to their 3-11 start.
The way I describe it is, I think it's sort of like thinking about the power of a character. It's the same for like a player in your roster. You have to punch in all the variables. You have to think about their comps, their attitude, their mindset, their future potential, current power. Are they at the house? Are they not at the house?
Sorry about that, guys. A little bit of audio cut out there in this interview, but the gist of what they were talking about, Kresnik, was largely that these changes, I think, are a net increase for the morale on this squad. And one of the questions I levied to you prior to jumping into that was how big of a difference does it make that Zarini, played with Na'Vi and all of that sort of stuff. And I think he felt sort of similarly to what you were saying, is that, he knows some of their tendencies. He got to hear some of their comms, but the game is so different that it's not as if he has like a skeleton key to beating Na'Vi now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think anyone has a skeleton key to beating Na'Vi. Maybe because his damage
he
made
knows
it.
it.
I want him to see.
It
I want
might
to see
be.
him pull out that Andy. I mean, I think he used to have like level 23, 24 Andy pre-experience change. But the benefit that Zarini will bring is less the experience that he had from Na'Vi and more just everybody on the team living in the house, him being pretty vocal in game. Just those changes are the biggest bumps to them.
Sure.
I'm sure the Na'Vi experience isn't going to hurt, but
It couldn't hurt, right? But how much does it really change?
Exactly.
That's up for them to decide. And one of the things, he gave a lot of respect to Na'Vi. The duo he sort of mentioned was Phoenix, so aggressive, and then Creatives following him up. I believe the quote from that interview was, "It's one of the scariest dynamics to go up against here in the PPL, and if they're going to win today, they have to not think of them as Phoenix and Creatives, but just as the champions."
Yeah, as Khan and Shaolin, if that is how it ends up coming out. But the flex damage and the flex tank, the people who are playing on the side, usually shoving those flanks, they're some of the most influential people in the game. That's why I think they're some of the hardest roles to play as well. I mean, having to set your own pace on the side of the map, and Phoenix and Creatives both have shown that, they work together really well. When Creatives is on those blasters kind of backing him up, they can put on a ton of pressure on the side, but Navi's kind of traditionally controlled style means that they know when to stop, they know when not to get over aggressive and kind of just, feed on the sides.
It's going to be fun to see how they react, because remember, the last we saw of Na'Vi was a 4-2 loss to the Renegades in week 1. So this is a matchup rife with storylines, because you kind of have the Zarini ever-changing dynamic on the Knights, and then a Na'Vi that looks slightly less scary, at least over the first couple of games that they had compared to how they were last time. Let's take a look at the map bans, though. Jumping right into the action here, Shattered Desert and Bright Marsh, first two for both of these teams, and then Frog Isle and Ice Mines, notably. Gore will be thrilled that Na'Vi banned out Ice Mines. None of that for us here today. Anything jump out at you ban-wise?
I mean, Bright Marsh is a pretty standard map. Seeing it banned means I think they just don't want to get snowballed. They want to kind of slow the game down, because Bright Marsh, once you win that first mid, it's really hard to defend once you get around that corner. Like, on the defense, it's too hard to get onto the cart. So they don't want the game to get out of their control. Same with Frog Isle. It's kind of a similar map in that sense, if you have a good enough backline. So.
Well, we'll get to see what we are jumping into. We saw what we're not allowed to play, but Jaguar Falls certainly on that list, and it's going to be the first off of the board here. It's a map that allows for kind of some dynamic play. We've seen some Lex on this map, Willow on top of that as well. I think we got one glimpse at the changed Androxus, maybe in the minor or console league this week, if I'm remembering correctly. Not on Jag Falls, but I think just in general.
Yeah, he was on Timber.
It must have been Timber.
That's right. Played him.
That's right, and it was hit or miss depending on how you look at it. But both of these teams, they have some flexibility. Both of them, I think, will continue to play. The Lex was impactful. The Willow was impactful as well. I don't imagine too much deviation from that.
Yeah, 4 off-tank bans to start here, too. So Torvald is open for them, not necessarily a off-tank, I guess, kind of a supporting tank. You lose that pressure from the side, but I wouldn't be shocked if Knights take double point tank here to kind of counteract. Yeah, they don't want Na'Vi to have a strong front line on the side, leaving them with kind of Nando or Ruckus if they need that fill-in. Or Terminus. We saw a lot of Terminus.
Right, that's true.
These last couple of days in the amateur scene. I wouldn't be too shocked to see him come in, but as a main tank, I would say Nando would probably be better for Na'Vi here.
I think one big thing you have to mention going into this matchup as well is that Na'Vi has played, honestly, triple DPS, maybe more than standard lineups so far this split. With Torvald at their back, I guess that's kind of on the board, but that's your tank then at that point, which isn't.
Torvald triple DPS is like a
right. It doesn't
it's like
make
it's like a
sense.
callback. It's like a G2 thing. That was something that G2 used to do, like pre Worlds 2018 was kind of their B&B. I don't remember seeing Na'Vi play it too much. With Maven Cassie coming up after, though, they're leaving it on the table for themselves. They want to have the flexibility. It does make sense, though, even if they do want to go a kind of standard composition. Knights have both their tanks already. No reason for them to take their second one, rather deny the Knights some of the choices they want. And Maeve really strong for the Knights historically so far.
With the way the bans, looking particularly at front lines, the way the bans in the first 3 picks round out, Na'Vi are now kind of forced if they want to go with that second tank is, I guess, Fernando or Terminus, really. I mean, are kind of their big options.
You're telling me you don't want Flux Generator main tank Ruckus?
No, I might pass on that one.
Okay.
I mean, it could work.
It's a free country. I respect it.
You're right. Absolutely. They might end up going triple DPS anyway. Creative's very potent on the Bomb King, and it looks like that's exactly what they're looking for. So this is an interesting. Normally, triple DPS is anchored by one very staying frontliner, and this time you have, Torvald. You don't really have a dedicated point tank.
It's going to have to be a little aggressive with the BK and the Torv. The BK is kind of going to supplement that tank position, I guess, just by being pocketed so hard. It's going to fall off in the late game because of the Wrecker coming online, but a lot of it's going to come down to Maeve Cassie. How can they find those angles on the side without getting rushed? Because there's no off tank to lock that down, and this map isn't really that big for angles. I mean, they won't even have a lot of information when they start coming in unless they have really good coverage on the back.
There's lots on the Knight side as well that needs to be looked at because, of course, to reiterate, you have Vapor, I believe, taking the healing spot from Cuss, who then has bumped over to the damage slot. So it's either going to be Lex or Willow for Cuss. Probably Lex in this case. You're not going to want to take Simsaloo off of his Flex Blaster position there. I mean, does that make a big difference in reality in this matchup? I mean, obviously, it's not Ricotta who's come out as one of the best direct damages in this league over the last 2 games. But, are they playing maybe even a little looser, a little scarier now almost because they're expecting to lose almost?
I mean, yeah, a team with nothing to lose is the biggest team to fear, right? They're just going to do whatever. You'd say Na'Vi would win just looking at it on paper, but this draft, I actually prefer Knights. I like their sustain, and I like their ability to deny they can actually get kills through the Torv Shield with the Law and Lex. They have a lot of options.
Well, Kresnik says early game maybe to Na'Vi, but the Knights have a pretty good draft on their side as well. We've talked the talk up here. Let's send it down to your casters for game 1.
Welcome, guys. Thank you from the desk for actually passing that off to us. I'm here with my good friend, Gore Miser. Now, Gore, I do see there is a triple DPS comp on Na'Vi. It's something it is they like to run. But one thing I'm more excited for is I'm ready to see what Cuss can do.
Cuss can
damage.
do. I've seen Cuss, I think, play some damage on his stream, but I've never seen him do it competitively. So it's going to be fun to see how that step comes up. And I'm going to mirror and echo what Kresnik said, where it's a team that has nothing to lose, which the Knights in this case are much that.
Right.
Are probably scarier than the Knights if they came in prepared for this overall. Not making role swaps, not having to have Vapor sub in. They can play without any nerves.
Right,
and
exactly.
honestly, on LAN and in some serious sets when it can affect standings, that's scary. That's really, really scary.
Yeah, that's going to mean a lot in terms of what Na'Vi already knows from a composition that they would expect from this, from a team that's actually really trying. And then now you're going to have a situation where they just, you expressed perfectly. They have nothing to lose right now.
And so far, I mean, it's a very standard loadout. Hunted, 40% lifesteal against your target. It's going to try to keep him alive a little bit more. And he's actually going to be able to get first blood on top of it. That's a good way to start out for Cuss.
Great, yeah. Very great way to start out for Cuss. Now they're down one individual. We're going to see Lex and Barrett come off around the side. They're going to try go for Torvald, trying to apply some pressure onto this back line right here. 24% on the point for Pittsburgh Knights, for PK. They're going to have to back off a little bit, taking a little bit too much damage, but they want to make sure they can get into position.
But look at Lazy's health. It's incredibly low. He has no shielding going on for him. Cuss is playing this perfectly with the angle that he's going at it. He's going to get stunned out. They're going to take maybe a little bit more than he wanted to, but I mean, 69% Pittsburgh Knights are just controlling the objective. This is way more than I genuinely thought we were going to see out of them today.
Yeah, we're seeing Cuss actually encounter a one-on-one. Well, really not one-on-one, but a two-on-one. Creatives actually ends up going in the back line, diving for him, but Simsaloo gets Lazy. Mutu gets Zarini. We have 2 down on the side of PK. Make that 3. We can get a 4th, and it will be Willow being the only one last alive. Simsaloo goes down the final 1, but with 99% on the point for PK, they have plenty of time to make it back.
There are 2 things that stand out about that to me, and it's kind of unfortunate the audio, I believe, on the video with the interview didn't quite work out, because one of the things that we did have Zarini mentioning was the fact that it comes down to Phoenix and Creatives being very, very big for this team. Creatives specifically, getting rid of him like that where Cuss is able to get that kill is probably one of the best things you can do. He will change the Na'Vi roster with his performance.
The Inflame actually goes through to make sure they can actually stay alive. They do get rid of Zarini and Vapor, but the rest of PK, they just want to go in. They want to fight. Cuss, G-Bunny, Simsaloo, all 3 managed to find a kill of their own, meaning 3 are down on the side of Na'Vi. The first point goes to them on Jaguar Falls.
And the Knights being able to start pushing forward. They're going to get aggressive as soon as they can. And this is the problem. The only downside, or at least I guess in this matchup, the biggest downside, And they pointed it out on the desk. You have solo tank Torvald. He's
Right.
not really known for his point presence, whereas you've got the two best point tanks in the game in Barrick and Inara on the other side. Like, to win this, Na'Vi have to play so absurdly aggressive, and they have to win every fight almost over the top, or else they have no control. Their control comes from the Torvald bubbles. Their control comes from creatives, and this being Bomb King's best map, right? They have to always win the fight. They can never slip up.
Yeah, 2 ultimates are online. Really, it's only 1 in terms of aggression. The scout is there. They can use that in specific situations, but you would never use that really to go in. They do have the King Bomb, though. The ults for Inara and Lex are also online. There's a little bit of exchange happening here. Na'Vi right now is pushing into PK's base. They want to push him back as far as they possibly can to try and kill that timer, but we already see Cuss go around the backs trying to kill Phoenix. He does end up missing a couple shots, but he is really, really low. Cassie being forced to back off. With creatives going down, Cuss is going to have to back up. The Phoenix ends up picking him up, but Mutu does end up getting the kill. Wait, Mutu? Man, let's say.
It's going to be Vapor.
Vapor, yeah.
Yeah,
that's the
Genos kills.
Yeah. That's
Either way. The one thing that stands out to me, and I feel bad because I know Cuss is going to watch this back and he's going to hear me say it, but I'm okay with it. And that is that I can't think of a better DPS to put him on than Lex with a Luminary Boost, where it's like, as long as you just hit them 3 times, they're going to die. If you get a headshot, you only need 2 shots. Like, you are not necessarily handed kills on a silver platter, but it set him up to be successful, to make this kind of transfer, because it's a little more, I guess, easy to pull off, but at the same time, it's very difficult to pull off against the movement that Na'Vi brings. But obviously, it's enough.
Ooh, yeah, they already have 2 kills. Those 2 individuals are down, but Na'Vi has all of their ultimates up. 2, almost 3 on the side of PK. Mutu already in the back line, trying to see if he can get a kill. Can't really find it. Simsalou actually does end up killing him off. Torvald being forced to ult, trying to knock them off a point as hard as they can. Dead zone goes down, and Na'Vi's being forced pretty much all the way back into their spawn right now.
Not being able to get the knockoff that he wanted, though, it's not going to be enough to get rid of. I mean, G-Bunny as well as Inara, Barrick,